everybody, Uncle Rich here for Who's Telling the Truth. Guys, today we have another exciting adventure. We got new equipment in the studio. We still don't have the monitor working properly, so this is going to be an adventure. But today is June 25th. This is show number 222, and the name of the show is Shock and Awe. Guys, I wanted to name the show Shock and Awful, but we didn't have enough room on the sign. So we went with Shock and Awe. And I know a lot of guys are going to say, oh, you're going to talk about the Iraqi war, right? Right, Uncle Rich? No. We're going to talk about the cultural war. And guys, what's going on in this country is it's a shame. It's a shock. And that's why we're calling this Shock and Awe. But let me just show you what happens when somebody is shocked on national TV in the morning. Judy, can we have clip number 2?
We can no longer say Trump's the bad guy. If you vote for Trump, you're the bad guy. If you vote for Trump, you are ripping children from parents. If you vote for Trump, then you, the voter, you, not Donald Trump, are standing at the border like Nazis going, you here.
Guys, just look at the expression on John Heidelman's face. You know? Judy, can you play that clip again just so we can get a better, but guys, just look at the
Trump is so evil.
Expression.
The Nazis are here. Now is the time for
Judy, fade back to me, okay? So play it again.
Just a second, Rich. I have to do something here.
We can no longer say
We are
Trump's
having
the bad
technical
guy.
difficulties.
If you vote for Trump, you're the bad guy. If you vote for Trump, you are ripping children from parents. If you vote for Trump, then you, the voter, you, not Donald Trump, are standing at the border like Nazis going, you here, you here. And
Stunned look on their faces, guys. You're like the Nazi. You here, you here, you here, you show us your papers, right? And guys, this ain't a joke. This is some bad jazz that's going on. But there's some bright hope, because even Fox News is starting to admit that the Republican Party is the Nazi party, is the party of Nazis. Let me rephrase that. So Judy, let's have clip number 3, please.
Trump is so evil. The Nazis are here. Now is the time for incivility, and you can do whatever you want to anyone.
Judy, can you play that again? Because I'm hearing it one more time.
we can no longer say Trump is so evil. The Nazis are here. Now is the time for incivility, and you can do whatever you want to anyone.
All right, now Judy, you got to remember, everybody can hear what you're saying out here. So, but hey, everybody's sharing in the experience. So, hey, now you get to see what it's like in the control room. But anyway, are we on Facebook, by the way, Judy?
No, not yet.
Are we going to be on Facebook?
Maybe.
What do you mean maybe? Today's the day. Stop already, will you? All right, so anyway, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. That last clip that we played, I took it out of context. But I wanted to do what Fox News does so well and does all the time. And guys, later on, I'll explain to you how I did it. But anyway, let's go one step further, and let's listen to Geraldo, who's a big Trump supporter, and you'll hear later on, he loves Trump. Let's listen to Geraldo finally come to his senses and condemn the people at Fox News. Judy, clip 4, please.
Politics aside.
But be that as it may, they can fix it tomorrow, Geraldo.
This is cruelty as policy. This is an obscenity. This is the government of the United States and the president that we both love, advocating a system by which young children are torn from their mothers.
Geraldo,
Sean, no,
you have agreed with me.
History will judge us, Sean. History will judge us.
Geraldo,
we must take a stand on something.
I don't want
Here is where we draw the line.
Let me be clear. I want no separation.
Hear that, guys? He wants no separation. And what they'll do is, Judy, do you want to, you know I can hear you, right? Yeah. Okay.
They can't though.
Oh, they can't hear you?
No, no. This is a very special setup.
All right, but could you do me a favor?
All right.
When I'm talking, could you like not talk, or could you shut your mic off? Because it's hard for me to concentrate.
Well, would you like to know that you're on Facebook now?
Oh, is that right?
That's right.
So it's a good thing I was polite and did that like a gentleman, right? Hey, Judy, after all we've been through. Hey, guys, Judy's had 2 hips resurface during the transition of this show. All right, so anyway, I'm going to look for myself. But we want to go, all right, so we did Geraldo. And guys, you know, Geraldo went against the grain. He was on Fox TV, and he condemned Trump. And he said, Trump's policy is cruelty. And, of course, Hannity had to try to defend the Republican position. But, guys, we're faced with the same problem here at Comcast Channel 23 and Community Access TV. And the reason why is some people think there's an unwritten rule in this building. Guys, there are no rules in this building. What brought me to the table was the fact that I can say what I want to say, that I have the freedom, I have the privilege, I have the Constitution, I have the First Amendment. And if I want to say something, Judy, you're driving me crazy. Holy mackerel. I'm sorry, guys, but, I don't think they realize how well I can hear them. Judy, I appreciate everything. And guys, I'm sorry. But you're trying to do a show and have somebody. I love you, Judy. All right, now where I was, I don't know. So anyway. All right, so we're getting to how some of the people on Fox are starting to jump ship. And you get a guy like Geraldo who finally came to his senses, and he says, listen, I'm not going to do it anymore. As much as I love Trump, this goes against my grain. This goes against everything that I stand for. And he was finally man enough to stand up. But guys, there are some people, especially here at Comcast, that think there's an unrule, and you can never speak bad of anybody else at Comcast. Well, I got a news flash for you. This ain't the Republican Party, and this ain't the 11th commandment of the Republican Party. The reason why I do this show is that when a knucklehead comes on and starts to preach some nonsense, some Republican nonsense, and tries to defend ripping kids away from their parents is the Christian thing to do and something that Jesus would do, that's where I draw the line. And, we're going to show you a clip from Kevin. And Kevin, if you don't like me calling up and giving you the business, then do us all a favor. Stop doing your show. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, baby, because it ain't going to stop. And you're going to see with tonight's show, people are really starting to say we've had enough. We had enough of this nonsense. Let's call a spade, a fact, and let's start being honest with each other. And when Trump lies, you call him out and you call him a liar. You don't defend him. But Judy, let's just show everybody. And guys, we'll play the longer clip later, but let's show everybody the shorter clip with Kevin and with Chris Ponte. And I appreciate you guys doing the show, but hey, these are the consequences. Judy?
You know, there's an unwritten rule here. I've been doing TV a lot longer than you. I've been doing it for almost 22 years here at Comcast. There's an unwritten rule that we've always had between the producers. You don't attack other producers on the air. You don't do it because, you know what, it's bad enough that you're brave enough to get here in front of these cameras and go on the air and tell people how you really feel, because nobody does it, because we're taught to keep our mouths shut because people like you are going to attack them.
Kevin, I don't want you to keep your mouth shut. I want you to keep talking so that people can realize how ridiculous some of the things the conservative party considers to be normal. Keep talking, and I want people to tune in, and maybe after enough time you'll get the hint and you'll say, you know what, maybe it's not all about my party. Maybe it's about humanity and taking care, doing the Christian thing, taking care of your fellow man. And what do we want to do? We want to turn our fellow man away at the border. And why are we doing this? Why is Trump doing this? Well, number one, because he's a racist. Number two, because he's full of hate. Number three, because he thinks it's going to be popular with his base. But guys, let's be honest with each other. Why does the Republican Party do anything? It's for the money. It's always about the money. And who profits from ripping kids from their parents and locking the kids up? Who profits from this, guys? Take a guess. Take a guess. Judy, let's prove my point with clip number 7, please.
Children separated from their parents. How can you enjoy a Mexican dinner as you're deporting and imprisoning tens of thousands of people who come here seeking asylum in the United States?
Judy, is that clip number 7?
Family separation and abolish ICE.
Abolish ICE! Abolish ICE!
Oh, okay, never mind. Let it play.
Shame! 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 Shame!
Okay, guys, I'm sorry. That was my mistake. No, Judy, no, just come back to me. We'll go to number 7 next. But guys, I wanted to play that clip because I wanted to show you the price you're going to have to pay if you're going to be evil and if you want to put kids in cages. This is what's going to happen to you. And you know, Sarah Huckleberry, she was having dinner at another restaurant. And the owner of the restaurant came in and he politely asked her and the contingency to leave. He comped them what they ate and what they drank, but he said, listen, I'm asking you to leave. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with the fact that you lie all the time. I don't agree that you support the president who lies all the time. And the guy was a gentleman. But guys, this is what we have to do. You have to start calling people out. And when somebody lies to you, call them out. Say, no, I'm not going to let you get away with this anymore. And, you know, it's a shame that it's got to come to this. But like I said, the owner of the Red Hen, he paid everything. He just said, look, I don't want you here. And, you know, sometimes you got to put the shoe on the other foot, right, Uncle Joey? Uncle Joey's my hottest T-Billy up in Cairo, New York. But Uncle Joey, right, if the baker can make a cake, you know, so I mean, you know, what's the old saying? You can't have your cake and eat it too. Right, Joey? Right, but this is what happens. And, you know, so the next clip we're going to show you is where the money goes and who is profiting. And guys, this is, you know, I saw a stat, and I didn't snip it, but I saw somewhere where they're saying it costs $775 a day to house an illegal immigrant. Notice they don't call him a refugee. It's got to be an illegal immigrant who's invading the country. They got to be invading, right? Because they're infesting the country, right? And these are the terms that you hear. And simple folks at home, guys like Ken Johnson, oh, see that? They're invading the country. They're infesting us. You know? And he repeats it, and Fox News repeats it. But guys, here we go. It's what it's all about. Who profits from this nonsense? So Judy, let's clip number 7, please.
Thousands of immigrants at the border, defense contractors, and private prisons stand to make a fortune from their suffering. This toxic mix of senseless cruelty and corporate greed epitomizes the worst of the Trump presidency. The biggest beneficiaries of Trump's cruelty are private prison corporations such as Geo Group and Core Civic, which operate roughly 60% of all immigration detention centers. Other companies scored contracts to manage logistics, security, transportation, and construction. One firm alone has already made $43 million transporting unaccompanied minors since last September. Last year, the federal government funneled over $2 billion to private prison companies for immigration detention, and that figure is estimated to rise. In recent earnings calls with investors, executives of those corporations touted Trump's immigration crackdown as good for business. It's no surprise, then, that stock prices of private prison companies have climbed as Trump's policies have gone into effect, and will likely continue to do so under his new executive order, which detains entire families. Executives of for-profit detention centers have no incentive to respond to the needs of their inmates. Watchdog groups report squalid conditions, neglect, even abuse. And because these are private facilities, they're under little obligation to disclose what goes on behind closed doors. Meanwhile, the immigrant detention industry has strong ties to the Trump administration, donating to Trump's inauguration committee, hiring former Trump aides. One company even hosted its annual retreat at a Trump golf course. It's a vicious cycle of money, influence, and cruelty that keeps immigrants behind bars, many of whom have every right to seek asylum from violent conditions elsewhere. Behind Trump is an industry that profits from his cruelty. We must hold Trump and his corporate enablers responsible.
Beautiful. Nice, Judy. All right, guys.
Since of immigrants at the border.
I think we're almost starting to get our act together. But the next clip, hopefully, is clip number 08, and we're going to step up to immigration laws now and take a look at the Statue of Liberty. And do you have any idea what's on the Statue of Liberty? Well, let's find out. Judy, clip number 8, please.
It's one of the most iconic symbols of America, a beacon of hope and acceptance for immigrants everywhere. So how did coming to this country become a crime?
Illegal immigrant.
Illegal immigrants.
Illegal, criminal, alien.
If we look at the history of immigration in this country, being illegal usually just means being unwanted. And more often than not, that has to do with race and ethnicity. For a long time, there was no such thing as an illegal immigrant in the U.S. because there weren't any immigration laws. In the early days, European settlers came over and claimed Native American land as their own, and Africans were brought here against their will on slave ships. When the U.S. established a government, immigrants flocked to the land that promised equality and freedom, and the border was open. But very soon, it became clear that not everybody who could make it here was welcome. The Naturalization Act, signed by George Washington in 1790, said only white people could become citizens. And every wave of newcomers was met with resentment by the Anglo-Saxon Protestants who claimed they were here first. Even white immigrants like Italians and the Irish were discriminated against for being Catholic. By the late 19th century, immigrants from China were also living in the U.S., and as the country went through an economic recession, they became the target of blame for widespread unemployment. So Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, the first major federal immigration law restricting entry into the U.S. It banned nearly all immigrants from China. This was the first time the federal government regulated who was a legal immigrant. Then in the early 1900s, eugenics became popular, which basically legitimized racism as science. It was founded on a racial hierarchy with the Northern Europeans at the very top. Its influence was so powerful that it was reflected in the next major federal immigration law signed in 1924. The law set up a nationality-based quota system that capped immigration from Southern and Eastern Europe and banned essentially all Asians. At this point, mentions of illegal immigrants started showing up in major newspapers. In the 60s, the U.S. finally moved to get rid of the racist quota system. The 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act reopened borders to Asian immigrants, especially the professionals, but it also added restrictions to a different group. For the first time, there was a cap on immigration from Latin America. Almost overnight, many Mexicans and Latin Americans who legally crossed the border to find work, including those encouraged by a U.S. government program, suddenly became illegal. We are still dealing with the consequences of that law today. Those who are deemed illegal in this country have always changed with time, but the reason to keep certain groups out has remained the same. Newcomers, especially those who look different, are seen as a threat to white Americans' jobs, identities, and way of life. Who's considered legal all depends on when you start the clock.
5 seconds.
Okay, I think, guys, this is tough because Facebook is about 6 seconds behind. So I'm trying to watch it on Facebook, and hey, this is, it's live TV. This is back in the good old days. But hey, look at what we're able to do now. We can reach the whole world. And the next clip, we're going to show you where a guy he refers to immigrants as invaders. And I'm saying, you know, I watch this, I say, you got to be kidding me. And I mean, you got people like Uncle Joey and little Stevie, they hear this stuff and they just, they're invaders. They're illegals, you know? You'll never hear the word refugees seeking asylum. No, because that's what they are. But if we told people that, they'd say, well, aren't we supposed to let them in? Isn't that why we're here? You know, isn't that the Christian thing to do? Isn't that what Jesus would do, Chris? Oh, we're going to have some fun later. But anyway, so let's play the clip on the immigrant invaders now. Judy, number 9, please.
What Steve is saying actually breaks my heart because it underscores a complete and total lack of understanding, whether you don't care about it, Steve, or you just don't get it and don't know the facts. I don't know. I don't know which one is worse. These immigrants, and I am an immigrant, and I am a mother, and I come from a...
They're not immigrants. They're invaders. They're not immigrants.
Let me finish.
They're not immigrants.
Let me finish. I did not interrupt you. I did not interrupt you.
You're an
They are
invader.
immigrants.
Invaders?
They are immigrants, okay?
Wow.
Steve,
When you come here without permission, you are an
immigrant.
invader.
I am an immigrant.
Wow.
I come from a country who has also seen the kinds of atrocities that these families are fleeing. I know this firsthand. A family does not wake up in the morning that comes from these countries and they are fleeing certain death, Aaron, to say, oh, I think it would be fun to cross the border on a life-threatening journey with my children in tow to see if I can break into the United States. That does not happen. They come here because they have no choice. They are facing certain death and they want to come to a country that they believe where they at least have a smidgen of hope to give their children a better future. On every conceivable level and by every measurable metric, this is an abomination. It is dictatorial, it is inhumane, it is diabolical, and that is why you have supporters of President Trump who have been with him on everything up until now. His evangelical leaders are saying that this is disgusting and it should stop now.
What do you say? I mean, really, what do you say? You know? And now we're going to play the final clip within the Chris Ponte show. And guys, it's me calling up, and I'm asking him a question, and I want, you know, well, you'll be able to hear it.
What Steve
but I
is
want you to
saying
listen,
actually breaks my
especially
heart
at the
because
end. All right? So, Judy, let's have clip number 10, please.
Rich, keep talking for a while. Something happened.
Wait, say, I'm sorry?
Talk a little bit because something happened.
Something happened?
Hang on,
Here.
it'll take us
You mean we're having technical difficulties again? Does it look like we're going to be all right?
Understand that there is a distinct American culture.
You're on the Ponte show. Hello.
There, that's number 10.
Hey, Chris, it's Rich again.
Hey, Rich.
You know, you guys are big Jesus fans, aren't you?
Yes.
What would Jesus say in regard to the immigrants? Would he turn his back on them?
He would probably no. I'm going to stop you right there. Don't you know what's interesting? You bring up Jesus. He's mythical unless you're trying to make a point to Christianity.
Oh,
Judy, you got to stop talking.
Okay, so let me tell no. This is why coming from you, Rich, it's funny. But let me tell you what Jesus, who by the way is for truth and righteousness, he was all about fulfilling the Old Testament prophets. He is for truth and the chain of command. He wouldn't reject someone ever, but there's paper trail and following the law. And why did our country allow all these people to come in unfettered?
Chris, do you really think that when Jesus invited people into his earthly kingdom, he vetted them?
His kingdom is earthly.
And you know what really bothers me? You guys are supposed to be so loving.
I am loving.
What did Jesus say?
Are you loving?
Love your
I'm
fellow.
sorry.
What would you do, Rich?
What's that?
What would you do? Solve the problem for me, and then Kevin's going to respond.
I'm just.
The first thing I would do, I wouldn't even think about taking a child away from its parent. I mean, that's just
Neither would I.
evil, and that's what the Republican Party wants. They want to prove to everybody how evil they can be so that people like Kevin will vote for him again.
Evil.
He's supposed to be a loving Christian filled with hate. And why? Because it's all politically inspired. You know, here you are, you're evangelicals, touting Jesus and kicking out immigrants.
They're illegal.
You're hypocrites.
They're illegal.
Have you been watching the same show? I'm curious because I don't remember spewing any hate. I'm very confused, Rich, because you're not making any sense.
You're right. You're very confused.
I'm very confused with you because you're not making any sense, and I think you must be watching PBS or some other show because you're not making any sense. You're not making any sense at all. I'm sorry. Are you done beating your wife? I mean, I don't know. I've had enough of that. Let me tell you something about Christians, Rich, because you're an atheist. I know that. You know nothing about Christianity. You know nothing about God or anything because you hate God because you're an atheist. Let's get one thing really clear.
Kevin, you're right. I'm an atheist. And the reason why I'm an atheist is because I was born a Christian. I went to, you said you doubted, you thought I knew very little about Christianity. I went to St. Matthew's in Hastings-on-the-Hudson for 8 years. Graduated. I led my confirmation class. I was a holy roller. I even thought about going to the seminary at one point in my life. I even went to a Catholic high school, all-boys high school for 2 years. I think I know a little bit about Christianity and religion and Catholicism. And what turned me away from everything, what made me an atheist, was when I started to question everything. And when I used to be a good Catholic boy and sit there in church and listen to the priest read the gospel, and he would always say, and now we're going to read you a message from according to St. Paul, according to St. Mark, I used to think these guys actually walked and talked with Jesus. No, no. They were telling you to, according. This is what he thought. This is what he might have thought. And this all happened in the Council of Nicaea. Everything was cobbled together. And once you start to look at it, you won't be a holy roller anymore. And you won't think that Jesus is going to save these kids. Because Trump's an evil human being. Jesus has got to save anybody. Get Trump out of there. And I'm sorry I get so upset, but this is the way it works. And the next clip, hopefully the next clip is 11, and we'll just show you how evil Fox is. You know, just watch. You see how they get everything ass backwards. So, Judy, let's have number 11, please.
So since more illegal immigrants are rushing the border, more kids are being separated from their parents and temporarily housed in what are essentially summer camps, or as the San Diego Union Tribune described them today, as looking like basically boarding schools.
And everything that we were told wasn't going on in there is going on. There are children sleeping in cages alongside other children. There are mattresses on the floor, the Mylar blankets that people are given after they run a marathon, or how they're covered up in the evening. But most importantly, the system is stressed. And you know who's telling me that? The Border Patrol agents inside.
Because no matter what they tell you, this is not about helping children. A lot of people yelling at you on TV don't even have children, so don't for a second let them take the moral high ground. Their goal is to change your country forever, and they're succeeding, by the way.
Si hubiera sabido eso, no, pero como uno viene huyendo de la...
If I would have thought he would have been taken away, I wouldn't have come, but since we're fleeing violence...
Sí, venimos huyendo de la delincuencia, mucha violencia en nuestra...
A lot of violence in Guatemala.
Sí, en Guatemala, y nos dijeron que nos amenazaron de muerte.
Our life was threatened, and we were told we were going to be murdered.
Que iban a matar a mi hijo y a mí, pero uno hace todo lo posible por buscar.
I was told my son was going to die, so we're doing whatever we can to give them a better life.
Sí, uno viene buscando una mejoría para sus hijos, porque uno
We're just looking for a better life for our children. We don't want them to be taken away.
And I would also say one other thing. These child actors weeping and crying on all the other networks 24/7 right now. Do not fall for it, Mr. President.
I had also had a few experiences in being ordered essentially to separate a brother and two brothers and a sister, very young children who were hugging each other. I was told that they should not be able to hug.
While these kids are in temporary custody, they're getting school and soccer and video games and 3 squares and 2 snacks and plenty of sleep.
But if you don't have a parent, if you don't have that adult who cares for that child, you're taking away what's foundational and what's most important to that child's health. And so taking a child away from a parent is child abuse.
In a minute, they're all going to be members of MS-13, according to you. I find this really terrible.
I mean, well, some are.
You know, and I think there's been an attempt to kind of make this a sterile policy debate, and to even characterize the children as gang members and risks and threats to the country. I think if you want to defend this policy, that's fine, but we need to be able to say clearly what the policy is and what the policy does. And the voices that have been missing in this debate about this policy are the voices of the children.
We did get some images released to us in the last hour. These are from Border Patrol. This is of a former warehouse that has been converted to a facility. And, you know, while some have likened it to concentration camps or cages, you do see that they have those thermal blankets. You do see some fencing. But keep in mind, some have referred to them as cages. But keep in mind, this is a great big warehouse facility where they built walls out of chain link fences.
We are hearing first the distressing sounds of what these children are going through after they have been taken from their parents. ProPublica has released audio that was obtained from a civil rights attorney from inside a U.S. Customs and Border Patrol facility. NBC News has not been able to independently verify its authenticity, and I warn you, this audio is very difficult to listen to.
building walls out of chain link fences. That's Fox's Ducey. Can you believe this? Can you imagine your producer coming to you and telling you, hey, Steve, you got to read this. These kids are so happy we're putting up chain link fences to benefit them. I mean, don't you have a conscience? Don't you have a sense of humanity? You know, I'm my producer. I mean, I try to go out of my way to get things right. Do I make mistakes? Of course I do. And when I do, guess what? I admit it. You know? Or I blame Judy. It's more fun to blame Judy. But guys, at the beginning of the clip, you heard him talk about summer camps. They want to equate putting kids behind chain link fences as summer camp. I went to Boy Scout camp. We didn't have any fences anywhere. Ay, ay, ay. So, Judy, let's have some fun with clip number 12, please.
Since more illegal immigrants are rushing the border, more kids are being separated from their parents and temporarily housed in what are essentially summer camps.
Some have referred to them as cages, but keep in mind, this is a great big warehouse facility where they built walls out of chain link fences.
Wow. I never ever thought I'd hear a positive spin on detaining children. It's like, look, I'm a cage half full kind of guy, you know. After all, what is a chain link fence if not a wall made of silver linings? I mean, think about it. Look, man, we're not idiots. A cage is a cage.
A cage is a cage. Doesn't get any simpler. Why would we put people in cages? Guys, we're going to give you probably the reason why we're doing this. And his name is Steve Miller. And guys, when you watch this clip, his face is going to remind you of somebody. And just take a good look at him. It's going to remind you of somebody from around the 1930s. And just take a good look at his face and think about how his brain works and how he wants to save America. He's going to make America great again. And he's a big influence on Trump. You didn't think Trump got this stupid all by himself, did you? No, he surrounds himself with idiots. With people like Steve Miller, who are filled with hate. And they're racists. And of course, he isn't a racist. How many times do we hear that, you know? He just doesn't like black people, but he's not a racist. So guys, we're going to introduce you to Steve Miller. And Judy, at the beginning of this clip, I did it like 3 times, so your machine's not, don't try to fix it, just let it run. So let's have clip number 13. Let's meet Steve Miller, the face of evil.
Human dignity. That's torture is the way to go. Torture is a celebration of life and human dignity. Torture is the way to go. Torture is a celebration of life and human dignity.
That's Stephen Miller, President Trump's senior advisor for policy. At just 31 years old, he is the mastermind behind the Muslim ban and served as Trump's warm-up act en route to the White House. So who is he?
I don't know much about him, but I know that he's pretty right-wing.
Stephen Miller was raised by Democratic parents deep in liberal, multicultural California, and it didn't take long for him to reject it all. Stephen's middle school classmates say he's a motivated, serious guy, or at least that he wants to be taken seriously. But the execution isn't always exactly smooth. When he and other students were discussing how to fairly divide the last slice of a pizza, Miller reportedly decided to just slap his hand down on it, and no one wanted it after that. By 14, Miller was a cultural warrior with a love for Star Trek. A friend and fellow Trekkie said Miller called him to break off their friendship. "I can't be your friend anymore because you are Latino," he said. Miller continued his war against minorities throughout high school. He wrote columns attacking Hispanic students for not speaking English.
Am I the only one who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash? And we have plenty of janitors who work.
Miller went on to Duke University, where his regular column, Miller Time, gained infamy for its hardline conservative views. Miller gained the most attention when he made his first television appearance on Fox News and openly defended the Duke lacrosse case.
It was always for them about their political agenda, and their political agenda has been from day one to make a big issue out of racism and gender and class warfare.
After school, Miller looked for work on Capitol Hill. Following a stint with notorious Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, he joined the man who would take him all the way to Donald Trump, Senator Jeff Sessions. Miller joined the Trump campaign soon after, regularly appearing as Trump's warm-up act at campaign rallies and working crowds into a frenzy with red meat rhetoric.
And watch it
Will you come out and vote for your country and your family and your children? Are you prepared to seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity?
But he didn't have a national profile until July 2016, when he helped pen Trump's nomination speech at the Republican National Convention. For 75 straight minutes, the longest convention speech in over 40 years, Trump painted Miller's portrait of America, a failed state cratering on the verge of dystopia, besieged by immigrants, rapists, cop killers, and terrorists, despite the economic and statistical evidence to the contrary. After the election, Miller continued to cultivate a key role in Trump's White House inner circle. Along with Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, Miller is widely cited as an architect of Trump's first executive order banning visitors from 7 Muslim-majority countries. When that travel ban was later rejected by the courts, Miller came out of the shadows to lead the public attack.
I'm prepared to go on any show, anywhere, anytime, and repeat it and say the President of the United States is correct 100%.
But that may be the last collaboration between the two Steves. As Trump distanced himself from Bannon, so did Miller. One White House advisor instead, Miller began aligning himself with Jared Kushner, working closely with Kushner's Office of Innovation. Miller, the man who once wrote an op-ed titled, "Sorry Feminists," is also spearheading women's issues alongside Ivanka Trump, tackling topics such as family leave and childcare. He claimed that the gender pay gap is a myth and argued that women get paid less because men work longer hours and choose better paying jobs. Miller wrote, "The pay gap has virtually nothing to do with gender discrimination. Sorry, feminists. Hate to break this good news to you." A former Republican congressional aide recalls he and his colleagues feeling creeped out a little bit, watching Miller at Trump's campaign rallies. All the anger right underneath the surface just waiting to come through. Like, what's going to happen when this guy gets the power? Now the world is starting to find out.
Are you ready?
Okay, so I'm assuming we're back. Guys, you know, it seems that Miller, what's that? All right, it seems that Miller wanted to paint a portrait of America to Trump, and the portrait looked like a failed state besieged by immigrant rapists, cop killers, and terrorists, despite statistical evidence. Now, guys, what was the first thing Trump said when he announced he was going to be running for president? He was going to get rid of the Mexicans, the rapists, the terrorists, right? The cop killers, right? He's going to get rid of all of them, right? Didn't he say that? Very first day. And it just keeps, and this is the red meat he just feeds to his base. But he wants you to think that every refugee is an illegal immigrant. And he wants you to think that every illegal immigrant is a member of MS-13. How many times have you heard that? We're being besieged by MS-13. I heard Trump said one Long Island city was liberated from MS-13. Is it liberated? Like they took the city over? I mean, come on. You know, let's, you know, this ain't Ecuador where the people are fleeing for their lives. You're talking about Long Island. What, at Jones Beach? You know, what? The immigrants at the MS-13 at Jones Beach? Come on. So anyway, guys, we're going to show you still now, because the one thing that we love to do on this show, and I'm sorry, Judy, you should have been able to put the still up and go back and forth to me in the meantime. But guys, we're going to take a look at this chart, and it's undocumented immigrants commit less crime than native-born citizens. And the purple line is native-born. The yellow is undocumented immigrants. And the blue is legal immigrants. And guys, you can obviously see that it looks like native-born Americans commit twice as much crime as undocumented immigrants. And when it comes to homicide, look at that. About 25% higher. And look at larceny. Holy moly. And I'll read this. Now, guys, what's the most important thing on this chart? The very most important thing on this chart. Come on, guys. Every week, just about every week we say this. Most important thing is the source. And what's the source? The Cato Institute, 2018. And guys, Judy, I don't know if you're going back and forth to me or not, but guys, who's the Cato Institute? The Cato Institute is a Koch brothers think tank. And who were the Koch brothers? The guys that virtually bought the government. That's right. When you see somebody voting against their own interests, it's because they were paid. They were bought by the Koch brothers. And guys, you could see the chart's as plain as the nose on my face, and I'll read it. The first study published by the Libertarian Cato Institute in February examines criminal conviction data for 2015 provided by the Texas Department of Public Safety. It found that the native-born residents were much more likely to be convicted of a crime than immigrants in our country, legal or illegally. And guys, we'll go to the next, Judy, if you can go to the next clip, please. A third study by the Libertarian Cato Institute recently looked at criminality among undocumented immigrants just in Texas. The state records the immigration status of arrestees, creating a gold mine for criminologists. Cato found that in 2015, criminal conviction and arrest rates in Texas for undocumented immigrants were lower. Hear that, Uncle Joey and everybody else? Lower than those for native-born Americans for murder, sexual assault, and larceny. Finally, a research paper appearing in the current edition of the UK journal Migration Letter shows that youthful undocumented immigrants engage in less crime than do legal immigrants or U.S.-born peers. All of this comes as no surprise to Art Video, the police chief in Houston, which has one of the largest undocumented populations in the nation. The chief has been publicly critical of the immigration crackdown. There's no wave of crime being committed by the immigrant community, Avocado said. So Judy, come back to me. So guys, there it is in black and white. But you know, Donald Trump wants you to think that all those 3-year-olds, you know, especially the one on the cover of Time magazine, they're hiding their AR-15s. You know, and that's another thing, this picture of the little kid on Time magazine. You know, the kid wasn't separated from its parents. They just wanted to use the kid as an example with Trump and all the fanfare and everybody in the right said, see, They're trying to cloud the issue. We're not trying to cloud anything. Trump's an evil human being. When you want to lock up kids, you're an evil human being. It's that simple. Zero tolerance. Trump is the one that started the zero tolerance. Then he said he couldn't take it away. What did he do? He took it away. Why? Because he's a liar. That's what he does. He lies for a living. And everybody believes him. But people are starting to call him out, and you see why. And Judy, we're going to skip the. There was another restaurant situation where somebody else from the Trump administration had to leave a restaurant. But we'll let the rest of that go because we want to prove how evil Corey Lewandowski is. And guys, when you see what he did and how he acted and the way he acted, and you say to yourself, what could possibly go through somebody's mind to make them think and compare a human being with a sound like he did? And guys, I tell you, this is what pushes me over the edge. I mean, these people aren't human. You talk about animals. He's the animal, not the immigrants. Judy, can we have clip number 18, please?
Year-old girl with Down syndrome who was taken from her mother and put in a cage. I read about did you say want to a 10-year-old with Down syndrome being taken from her mother?
Pick anything you want out, but the bottom line is very clear.
You?
When you cross the border illegally, you have given up the rights of this country.
Being taken from their
we
mothers.
are a country with borders. We are a country of laws.
Stolen from their mothers and put into cages.
Cross this country illegally, your parents understand this. They understand something
nobody can hear when you both talk. So
when you cross the border illegally, when you commit a crime, you are taken away from your family.
She has Down syndrome and she was taken from her mother.
All right, Zach,
you go to any country in the world,
let's get Zach to finish his point.
When you commit a crime, you are taken from your parents in any country in the world.
There is a reason why faith groups, there is a reason why 12 Republican senators sent a letter begging this administration to reverse this policy. There is a reason why the governor of New York is suing this administration to stop this policy. This policy is abhorrent. It is offensive to all
Where were you during the Obama administration when this policy was in place?
This administration policy was not done during the administration. You are now lying about this policy in addition to saying
but to be clear, that children were detained at the border under the Obama administration.
When they were unaccompanied minors. The difference now is they are accompanied minors. The Trump administration is forcibly making them unaccompanied minors when they take them from their parents and put them in cages. And we have members of the Trump team who are going wah wah when you learn about the stories of horror that's going on down at the border.
Okay, so guys, you could just see. I mean, it's just. But we're going to go back to the beginning of the show, and I showed you that I took a clip out of context. I pulled a fox on you. I became a foxstitute for a brief moment. But guys, I can't do it. I can't try to pull the wool over your eyes without playing the full clip. And I really didn't take much out of context, but you'll hear the whole clip, and you'll just see how Fox News goes out of their way to defend virtually anything the Republican Party says or does, and especially when it comes to, what's her name, Sarah Huckleberry. So anyway, Judy, let's have clip number 19, please.
People on the political left are saying, whoa. You crossed the line. The Washington Post editorial board said she shouldn't have done that. Elijah Cummings said, the congressman from the great state of Maryland, there's the Washington Post headline, let Trump team eat in peace. Elijah Cummings said he understands the anger, but she should have served her. And then you've got David Axelrod saying, suddenly we're blue plates and red plates? What, are you kidding me?
Yeah, absolutely. This is another portion of that Washington Post op-ed. It says, those who are insisting that we are in a special moment justifying incivility should think for a moment how many Americans might find their own special moment. So this idea that things are so bad, the resistance is so necessary, Trump is so evil, the Nazis are here, now is the time for incivility, and you can do whatever you want to anyone, anywhere. There's a sign outside that Lexington. It's so ironic. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. So if this restaurant owner sees Sarah Huckabee Sanders and the Trump administration as an enemy, then why not love them?
She tweeted out, I politely left, meaning the restaurant. Her, the owner, her actions say more about her than they do about me.
Yes.
I always try to be respectful.
Okay, are we back to me now, Judy? Okay, now, all right. Judy says we have 3 minutes left, so we're going to play the last clip.
Now it's 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Well, all right. Well, what we'll do is we're going to play clip 20 with Geraldo, and we're going to show you how there is some decency at Fox News. And we're going to play the whole clip. And you're going to, I tell you, I really have to hand it to Geraldo for finally standing up. But why it took him so long is beyond me. All right, so we're going to play the clip. We're going to run the credits. And then, Judy, you're going to give me, what, 15 seconds at the very end? Okay. All right. Hit it. Here's Geraldo,
that cause family separation, which we don't want.
The president said we don't want that earlier today, talking about the need for new immigration laws to end the crippling loopholes. Here with the reaction, Judicial Watch's Director of Investigations, Chris Farrell, the author of the bestseller, The Geraldo Show, Fox News correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo, the Democrats, we just heard Ed Henry's report, the Democrats have had a deal, a DACA fix, and they've had a fix on separation for kids. And Schumer's answer is no. Why? Because he wants it for politics.
Guys,
they're
that ain't
playing
true.
politics.
Not true.
Fix the law and do your job. That's for both sides.
Sean,
you
be
support
that
the
as
compromise.
Be that as it may. Politics
Forget
aside.
be that as it may. They can fix it tomorrow,
This
Geraldo.
is cruelty as policy. This is an obscenity. This is the government of the United States and the president that we both love. Advocating a system by which young children are torn from their mothers.
Geraldo,
Sean, no,
you have agreed with me.
History will judge us, Sean. History will judge us.
Geraldo,
we must take a stand on something.
I don't want to.
Here is where we draw the line.
Let me be clear. I want no separation. The president, and you supported him, offered a DACA.
So it's simple. Hannity loves Trump more than he loves kids. Can you believe this, guys? This is what's happened to this country. We get a con man elected as president, and he deceives all the simple folk, takes advantage of them. Why? Because they aren't too bright. And Trump himself said, hey, the smart people, the simple folk, vote for me. So, Judy, how much time do we have left?
You have 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Are you running the credits now? So, all right. So, guys, once again, it was another adventure. Hopefully, next week we'll have the monitor ready so that we can get the timing down. I want to thank Judy. I want to thank Kurt. I want to thank Dave. I want to thank Facebook. And, guys, hopefully next week, next week, same time, about 3 o'clock. We're going to do 2 more 3 o'clock shows, and then we go live at night. So, how we doing? Goodbye. Guys, we'll see you next week.